How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video we're going to be going through everything you need to know for the Halloween Part 1 event in Pokemon GO. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, this event is going to be taking place from October 22nd to October 28th, 10 a.m. to 10 a.m. local time. Part 2 of the event is going to be starting on October 28th, so we'll go over those event details once we actually get them announced. But as far as the bonuses for Part 1 of this event, we're going to get 2x catch candy, which is typical for a Halloween event. On top of that, we're also going to get an increased chance to receive extra large candy for nice throws or better if you're level 31 or higher. We're going to get increased shiny odds on Umbreon from raid battles and Zorua from wild encounters. And then finally, we're going to have the Lavender Town music available during this event, which most people probably don't play this game with the sound on, but you might want to have it on during this event. Now on top of that, like usual, we're going to have showcases featured during this event. This is going to be a 6-day event, so we'll most likely have between 2 to 3 showcases available. These can get you some really good items in game like incubators, lucky eggs, star pieces, incense, and even lure modules if you end up placing first or second. If I had to predict which Pokemon are probably going to be featured in showcases during this event, I would definitely say Morpeko and possibly Spiritomb. Speaking of Morpeko though, that's actually going to be one of the Pokemon that's going to be debuting for the very first time in game. It's a really unique Pokemon which will actually transform each time a charge attack is thrown in PvP as well as Team Go Rocket battles. This will not change forms when used in raid battles though, at least not yet according to the in-game text. Now I do also want to talk about how the transformations work for Morpeko. So when it's in its full ability mode, which is basically just going to be its happy phase, it's going to be in its electric type version and it's going to have the exclusive move Aura Wheel. This will be 100 power and it'll also boost your attack by 1 stage every single time you throw it, which is really good. Now when Morpeko is transformed into its hangry mode, basically its angry version, it's going to use the dark type version of Aura Wheel, which will basically have the same power and it's also going to boost your attack by 1 stage guaranteed. So when it comes down to using this Pokemon in PvP, because it boosts your attack by 1 stage every single turn, this is incredibly OP. So during this event, how can you actually get your hands on a Morpeko? So it does look like Morpeko is going to be an exclusive encounter from Go Battle League during this event. Now the good news here is that it doesn't look like it's going to be rank specific, so no matter how far along you guys have actually progressed this season, you can encounter this if you just get the encounter reward. That being said though, after this event ends, it's going to be unlocked after rank 16. Now according to the in-game text, it also has a higher chance of being encountered from the premium track, which does require 1 green raid pass to use. Personally, I wouldn't do this though, I would just keep trying to get it from the free encounters. You should definitely hold on to your raid passes for meta-relevant raid bosses like Giratina Origin Form, which is currently in rotation. So basically when it comes down to it, you have no optimal way to actually get an ideal IV spread of like 0-15-15 for Morpeko because the only available ways to get it are from timed research as well as from GBL, both which actually have an IV floor of 10-10-10. So that means you would have to trade with somebody else if you want to get a good IV spread to use this in the Open Great League. Now on top of Morpeko, we also have another debut Pokemon releasing during this event, and that Pokemon is going to be Dynamax Gastly. So I did actually predict this Pokemon being released during this month during my October monthly breakdown video, and thankfully, it's not going to be a 3-star max battle, it's only going to be a 1-star max battle. That being said though, after the announcement of Gigantamax Pokemon being released later this month, there really isn't a huge reason to focus on 1 or 3-star max battles anymore, because it was confirmed that you won't be able to Gigantamax these Pokemon, not even with Max Soup. Now the reason why I'm saying that is because Max Soup exists in the main series games, which is an item that you can use to get Gigantamax versions of your regular Dynamax Pokemon, at least like the eligible ones. So in this case that would be Gengar, which actually has a Gigantamax form. So it is definitely possible in the future if max battles ever get reworked, or we get some additional items incorporated into them, we could actually Gigantamax some of our Dynamax eligible Pokemon. If we actually take a look in the past at Mega Raids, after the launch, it took them 2 years to rework the entire system, which made Mega Raids 10 times better. I would even argue like 20 times better. They're so much better now than they were at launch. Anyways, long story short, I would say do the max battles if they're going to be convenient for you for easy experience and guaranteed extra large candy. Otherwise, I really wouldn't worry about them too much right now. Next up, let's go over the wild encounters that are going to be featured during this event. We'll talk about the meta relevance for the most relevant ones later on in this video. Timestamps are going to be down below if you want to skip ahead to that section right now. So anyways, we're going to have Zubat, Spinarak, Murkrow, Mischievous, Shuppet, Drifloon, Purloin, Female Frillish, Zorua, Litwick, and Greaveyard. The only Pokemon that I mentioned here that can't be shiny is going to be Greaveyard. And then from the rare encounters, you're going to have access to Sableye as well as Absol. Now from field research, we're actually going to have a lot of Pokemon featured as well as some really awesome tasks. So we're going to have Sableye, Scraggy, Golett, Sandygast, Morpeko, Nimble, and Greaveyard. Now on top of all of that, there's also going to be Mega Energy tasks for Gengar, Houndoom, Sableye, Bayonet, and Absol. Typically these don't award that much energy though, so I wouldn't go in expecting to Mega Evolve your Pokemon for the first time just based on these tasks alone. It's not impossible though, it's just for the average player, I would advise you to kind of manage your your expectations on this grind. Next up, let's take a look at the free timed research, which is going to be focused on Spiritomb and its 108 spirits. So this is going to be available until November 3rd at the end of part 2. So you do have plenty of time to get this quest done, but make sure to actually redeem your encounters with Spiritomb, because this is one of the rarest Pokemon to encounter in the game, so getting the Hundo and potentially even the Shiny, that is a hunt that you can only typically do during Halloween events. So yeah, only once a year for the most part. We did actually have Spiritomb available during the Sinnoh Tour event, but again, because it is going to be a Sinnoh Pokemon, that's why. Otherwise, like outside of that specific event, it really is only released during Halloween. So again, take advantage of all the Spiritomb encounters, take advantage of the Spiritomb quests from Field Research. Spiritomb should be a top priority Pokemon you guys focus on during this event. It's not meta relevant, but it is extremely rare. Now following that, I want to go over the 2 timed research that we're going to have available. Both are going to be paid. One's going to be $5, the other one is going to be $2. Let's go over the $5 one first, which is going to feature the bonus 3 times Catch Candy upgraded from 2 times Catch Candy. This is honestly insanely good. On top of that, we're also going to get a Morpeko avatar item choice, so either you're going to go with the full berry or the hangry version. It's up to you. I don't think you can actually get both, at least not to my knowledge anyways. On top of that, you're also going to get encounters with Pikachu with the Witch Hat costume, a Spiritomb, a Froakie in a costume, Rowlet in a costume. Both Pokemon are also going to be available during part 2, I believe. And then finally, you're going to get an encounter with Morpeko. So overall, guys, like the upgrade to 3 times Catch Candy is honestly the best part of this ticket. If you want to get it, that's going to be the main appeal here. Like the other stuff is kind of whatever, but trust me, like when I say this, combined with Pineapple Berries or even Silver Pineapple Berries, the gains are going to be insane. You could also get even more candy with an active Mega Evolution, and I'm going to go over the best ones to use for this event later on in this video. Once again, timestamps are linked down below if you want to skip over to that section right now. Now we do also have the timed research available for $2, so what do you get from that one? So basically it's just a bunch of costume Pokemon. You get Pikachu with the Witch Hat, Vulpix in a costume, Gengar in a costume, Piplup in a costume, Drifblim, Froakie, Pumpkaboo, Rowlet all in costumes. In my opinion, this one isn't really worth it, but I know for the shiny hunters out there, especially the shiny costume hunters out there, they're probably going to buy this. Now both of these tickets can be gifted, but I would honestly just recommend the first one for the candy bonus, and especially if you gift this to a new player and they actually grind this event out, I mean, they are going to get so far ahead on their progress. It is literally insane when you consider the compound effect for 3 times Catch Candy. Now we do also have raid battles available, 1-star, 3-star, and 5-star raid battles, so let's take a look at those right now. So first of all, in 1-star raids, we're going to have Sneasel, which evolves into Weavile. This has relevance as a dark and ice type attacker for the raid/gym meta. We also have Sableye, which has relevance as a purified or shadow variant in the Open Great League, so typically from raid battles, not really a big focus, but if you don't have anything else to use your raid pass on during that day, you do also get 750 Stardust for catching Sableye, so that could be a worthy investment. Now on top of that, we also have Yamask, which evolves into Cofagrigus, and Galarian Yamask, which evolves into Runeregus. Both of these Pokemon have relevance in the Open Great League and Ultra League metas, but as far as getting them from raid battles, the IV floor is 10-10-10, so you can't really get a good IV spread for PvP in the Open Great League. That being said though, the optimal IV spread for the Open Ultra League due to their CP limit is going to be 10-15-15. So when it comes down to it, you can actually get the optimal IV spread, the rank 1, for the Open Ultra League in both of these variants, which means doing the raids for them could actually prove to be worthy. Although for some of you guys out there who did the Yamask research day recently, you may actually have some good IV spreads for the Open Ultra League, so make sure to double check those before you transfer them. Now in 3-star raid battles, we also have a few Pokemon featured as well. The first one is going to be Hisuian Typhlosion, which honestly is catching a lot of allegations right now, guys, so I don't want to talk too much about this Pokemon. All jokes aside though, Hisuian Typhlosion is definitely not a Pokemon that I would really focus on right now unless you're going to be shiny hunting it. That's really the main reason to go for it. In terms of like PvP relevance, there isn't that much, and then raid relevance, it's worse than the regular Typhlosion without Blast Burn. Now we do also have Umbreon available, which is actually going to be shiny boosted during this event, specifically from raid battles, and it is going to be relevant in the Open Great League as well as Ultra League formats. Like I mentioned earlier though, because the IV floor is going to be 10-10-10, you can't really focus on a good Great League spread. With that being said though, Umbreon doesn't actually hit the max CP limit for the Open Ultra League, so getting the Hundo is optimal for that league format. And I actually have the Shundo that I got during a comm day for Eevee like a long time ago, which I have used quite a bit in the Open Ultra League. Even though I don't like running Open Ultra League that much, Umbreon is a tank, man. Definitely a great Pokemon to invest into. And then finally, we do have Bombirdier, which isn't really that meta relevant, but it does have a shiny variant available, which is actually considered one of the rarer shinies to get, because I believe up to this point it has only been raid exclusive. Now with the lower tier raids out of the way, let's talk about the legendary and mega raids we're going to have available during this event, starting off with Giratina Origin Form, which is going to be available until the end of this event on the 28th. Now this Pokemon, guys, is one of the top ghost type attackers in the game. especially if you don't have Dawnwing's Necrozma. So for anybody who just started playing this game like a few months ago, you probably don't have this Pokemon, and not to mention, it was really difficult to get during the Go Fest event, so there's that factor as well. Now when it comes down to Giratina Origin form though, it does have relevance in the Open Great League, Ultra League, and Master League metas. Although with that being said, because it's going to be from raid battles, it's going to be hard to get a good IV spread for the Open Great League and Ultra League formats. You're going to have to trade with somebody else to get a better IV spread that way. Otherwise, when it comes down to it for the raid/gym meta, the ideal moveset you want to go with is going to be Shadow Claw plus Shadow Ball. It does actually have a signature move called Shadow Force, which would require an Elite TM, but honestly when it comes down to it, it isn't really that much of a difference between Shadow Ball and Shadow Force, so I think your Elite TM could be better spent on another Pokemon, and if you actually want a list of worthy Pokemon, then check out this video right here. Now we did actually have a raid hour for Giratina Origin form last week, and for those of you guys that missed it, don't worry about it, because we actually have a second raid hour coming up on the 23rd. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with how raid hour works, it's going to be from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. local time, and basically most gyms are going to have Giratina appearing on them, and the raids are going to also reset after 30 minutes. Which means you can pretty much hit the same gyms again at the half-hour mark, which is pretty convenient if you only have like a few gyms around you. So when it comes down to actually finding people, I would strongly recommend checking Campfire for any local meetups before this event. Following that, let's take a look at Mega Sableye, which is also going to be available until October 28th. This is a Mega Pokemon that we honestly don't see that often in rotation, kind of similar to Mega Absol, and while it doesn't actually have that much meta relevance in raids, it does have play in the Open Great League like I mentioned earlier, as one of the super extra large Pokemon builds. So when it comes down to the Shadow variant, you can't actually Mega Evolve that, but when it comes down to the Purified variant, you can actually Mega Evolve this. So if you end up building a Purified Sableye for the Open Great League meta, you can also use that Pokemon as your Mega Evolution as well. This way you don't actually have to power up two different versions of Sableye. And basically the main use for Mega Sableye is going to be candy bonuses, since it is going to be a dual Dark and Ghost type Pokemon. And given the timing of when this Pokemon is going to be available, in my opinion, I think it's actually perfect for newer players to get their hands on, especially because we have so many Dark type and Ghost type Pokemon featured. Now following that, let's take a look at Max Battles. So after the announcement of Gigantamax Pokemon in 6-star Max Battles, like I mentioned earlier guys, it basically made rating the 1-star and 3-star Max Battles pointless for the most part, because the only way to Gigantamax them is going to be by catching them specifically from those max battles. Once again, this could change in the future with Max Soup being released, but for right now, I would not really go out of your way to keep rating these. For meta-relevant Pokemon though, I do think it is still worth doing these if possible, because the IV floor is going to be 10-10-10, which gives you a much better chance at actually getting something like 90% or higher, and if not, you can always mirror trade them for a chance at a lucky Pokemon too. So when it's convenient for you, I do still think it's going to be worth doing them for some easy experience and rewards. I mean, you do actually get a guaranteed extra large candy, which is really nice. And then honestly, I have actually been getting some rare extra large candy too, so that has been a pretty good reward that I don't really see too often in regular raid battles. So max battles kind of rewarding those more often right now for some reason. I think it's because players aren't really doing them, so nobody's really talking about it. So anyways, if that's an incentive to you, I would definitely just do them for that reason. That being said though, that was more some general advice for max battles. Now let's take a look at the featured Pokemon. So we talked about Dynamax Gastly earlier, right? It's going to be a 1-star max battle. It's going to be the first Ghost type Pokemon available as a Dynamax Pokemon. So at minimum, I would grab about 3 of these for Gengar evolutions, and then just stop after that. Gigantamax Gengar is going to be released soon in-game, but it might not be possible for many players to actually beat this raid boss, mainly due to them being in-person only and having a really high difficulty level. So what that essentially boils down to is that you pretty much have to settle for the 1-star or 3-star max battles if you just want to actually focus on this feature, which honestly, I've been having fun with it. I think it's a lot more enjoyable to actually do than regular raid battles. I can do a few of them every single day. I do still like the feature, even though the implementation has been kind of bad overall. So when it comes down to it, I just recommend evolving them, don't power them up, and you can just use their evolved forms to take down pretty much every single raid boss. That's what I've done. I haven't powered up a single one of my Dynamax Pokemon, and I've beat every single raid boss so far. So anyway, continuing on here, we also have the Dynamax Gen 8 starters available, Grookey, Scorbunny, and Sobble. So these starters were just released in game not too long ago, and they actually haven't had their comm days yet, which means you should still be doing them when possible for a chance at a hundo. Now I personally just got a hundo Grookey a few days ago, which was super awesome. It would have been really cool if I could actually Gigantamax this Pokemon in the future, but for right now I'm just going to focus on getting it Frenzy planned and drum beating once that comm day is eventually announced, probably sometime next year. And if we ever get Max Soup, fingers crossed, I can Gigantamax this as well, but that's kind of a long shot at this point. Now finally, we do also have Dynamax Phalanx available, which is the only fighting type Pokemon we actually have available as a Dynamax Pokemon right now. So if you want to be prepared for all Dynamax raids in the future, it might be worth actually grabbing at least 3 of these and then kind of stopping there. It's a really difficult solo, so I wouldn't recommend the solo. I would instead recommend the duo at minimum, because you can just go in with one level 20 Charizard with Air Slash and Overheat, and 2 other evolved Pokemon at level 20, which basically means you don't have to power them up, and then just make sure to swipe to collect the Dynamax energy, focus on that the entire battle, and you're going to be able to take this down. Next up, I want to go over the web store bundles. We actually have 3 special box bundles available in the web store, and honestly, some of them are looking pretty good in terms of the value here. So let's go over the first bundle, which is going to be the Creepy Crate for $5. You're going to get 3 remote raid passes, 1 premium raid pass, and 1 max particle pack, which gives you 800 max particles, I believe. So in terms of value, you're going to be saving 275 Pokecoins or $2.75 USD. Honestly, not the worst box in the world, and I feel like if you're just going to be focusing on remote raids anyways, it could just be worth going to the web store to get these. Let's take a look at the next bundle as well, which is going to be called the Pumpkin Pack for $40, so quite a big price jump here. Now this one is basically just focused on incubators, so when it comes down to it, you're going to get 20 super incubators and 20 regular incubators. The total value is going to be 7,000 Pokecoins, which means you're going to be saving 3,000 Pokecoins by actually buying this, or $30 USD. So if you're a player who actually buys a lot of incubators, it's definitely going to be worth going through the web store to actually get this bundle, whether or not you actually use those incubators right now, or if you want to use them in the future. I have literally accumulated so many incubators from the referral program, and honestly guys, I have no idea what to do with them. I have at least over 300 super incubators, and I haven't paid for a single one. And honestly, I just wait for really good egg events, and they never show up. So that just goes to show you how rare good egg events actually happen in this game. Most of the time, egg events are honestly kind of scammy, and I really wouldn't recommend them. So yeah, when it comes down to these incubator deals, if you don't know any better, I wouldn't recommend this box. But if you just kind of like hatching eggs anyways, then yeah, it would be a good value for you. Now finally, we have the last bundle, which is going to be called the Boo Bundle for $100. And I know what you're thinking, that's a lot of money here, but let's go over the details. So first of all, you're going to get 3 remote raid passes, you're going to get 16 premium raid passes, you're going to get 3 max particle packs, you're going to get 50 super incubators and 50 regular incubators. Now the total savings here, guys, is going to be over 10,000 Pokecoins, like just over 10,000. I think it's like 10,050. So basically that comes down to $100 of savings. So without a doubt, the Boo Bundle is going to be the best buy for any dedicated player in this game. I know it seems like a really high price point, especially for like newer players. You're probably thinking like, that's crazy. Why would I ever spend $100 on this event? Well, hear me out on this, okay? Because you're going to probably use all these sooner or later during a big event like the Wild Area, Go Tour, or even Go Fest. So basically think of this as an investment if you see yourself playing this game for the long term. You can still use these resources sparingly as well, so like just because you buy these incubators right now, you can still make them last a really long time. And so if there is ever a good egg hatching event, I'll make sure to let you guys know on the channel. I don't really try to sugarcoat things on here, I'm pretty transparent, so if it's bad, I'll tell you that it's bad, and if it's good, I'll tell you that it's good. Now we still have a lot of things to go over in this video, like the Spotlight Hour, the best Pokemon to focus on, candy tips, catching tips, all that good stuff. But before we get into all that, I want to quickly go over PvP IVs for those who are a little bit unfamiliar. So basically, you want to have low attack IVs and high defense and high stamina IVs. And the reason for this is because it allows you to level up your Pokemon the most before it hits the CP limit for the Great League or the Ultra League. There are going to be some Pokemon that are exceptions because their max CP does not reach that limit, in which case you would just want to have the best IVs possible, which is typically the Hundo. If you do want to quickly pull up good IVs for Great League or Ultra League, you can use this search string on screen right now. But now with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the Spotlight Hour, and then we'll go over the best Pokemon to focus on during this event. On the first day of this event, we're going to have the combined Spotlight Hour featuring Duskull, Gastly, and Litwick, with the special bonus being 2x catch experience. Now all of these Pokemon are going to be meta relevant, which I will cover in just a second, but first let's talk about the bonus. So the bonus is nice, but it's nothing too crazy compared to other methods in game, so I wouldn't really recommend using Lucky Eggs during this Spotlight Hour. I would still aim for great and excellent throws if you can, but in my opinion, I think it would be much better to focus on speed for more candy gains rather than focusing on experience right now, because again, we're going to have 2x catch candy, 3x catch candy if you actually buy that timed research ticket, so the candy gains on these meta-relevant Pokemon are going to be nuts. So first of all, we have Duskull, which evolves all the way up into Dusknoir as its final stage form with a Sinnoh Stone. So basically after the most recent meta shakeup, this became one of the best Pokemon to have for the Open Ultra League meta, and it's also a really great pick for the Open Great League meta. The downside here is that you will need to have the exclusive legacy move with Shadow Ball, and for this event, I would really just focus on getting a good IV spread for PvP, and you can decide later if you actually want to evolve and then Elite TM it, or if you want to wait for a special event where you can actually evolve and get it for free. Now following that, we have Gastly, which evolves all the way up into Gengar. This does actually have a trait evolution, which I'll talk about in just a second, but overall, it's an amazing Pokemon to focus on, guys. It has meta relevance as a Ghost type attacker, it also has a Mega evolution, it's the best Ghost type Mega in the game, and so if you don't have the Hundo, it's going to be a great chance to get one potentially during this event. Gengar is also relevant in PvP in both the Open Great League and Ultra League metas. but it will need the exclusive moveset Shadow Punch, which is a Calm Day exclusive moveset. And that Calm Day was a long time ago, so if you want to get it, you're going to have to use an Elite TM. But when it comes down to Gengar, it's incredibly important for PvP. You basically can't run it without it. Now on top of all of that, Gastly is also going to be one of the few Pokemon that benefits from a trade evolution discount. So basically, if you trade and evolve it all the way into Gengar, it's only going to cost you 25 candy for the evolution to the second stage form Haunter, and then from Haunter to Gengar is going to be free. Now we do actually have one more Pokemon to go over, that is going to be Litwick, which evolves all the way up into Chandelure. So when evolved into Chandelure, this Pokemon has meta relevance as a Fire and Ghost type raid attacker. Thankfully there are no legacy movesets required on Chandelure either, although it does actually have access to one Calm Day exclusive one called Poltergeist. With that being said though, Shadow Ball is actually ranked better than it, so you don't really need to worry about this one too much. Now normally Litwick is a pretty rare Pokemon in game, so I would encourage you guys to Pineapple Berry every single one of them for more candy, on top of the 2x candy bonus, right? It also ranks a little bit better than Gengar as a Ghost type attacker, so combined with the strategy that I mentioned earlier about building a budget Ghost type attacker raid team with Gengar, you can also add in Chandelure as well too. For both Chandelure and Gengar, you can pretty much avoid spending Stardust by catching high-level variants of these Pokemon and then evolving them all the way up. So without a doubt, this is going to be one of the best Spotlight hours of the entire month. Do not skip it, guys. Make sure to mark it in your calendar, set an alarm if you have to. Do not miss this Spotlight hour, especially if you don't have any of these meta-relevant Pokemon. You definitely want to be getting good IVs on them. Now with that being said, let's take a look at the best Pokemon to focus on from the wild encounters, the field research, and basically anything else. Alright, so first of all, let's go over Spinarak, which evolves into Ariados. This Pokemon has relevance in the Open Great League right now in the top 100, so it's definitely a great Pokemon to focus on. Following that, we're going to have Murkrow, which evolves into Honchkrow, which has relevance as a decent Flying type attacker as well as a decent Dark type attacker. Honestly, I wouldn't really focus on getting good IVs for this Pokemon. Instead, I would use it as more of a temporary attacker for these typings. So basically what that means is just catch high-level variants of this, so anywhere from like level 28 to level 30, I would say. Just evolve them all the way up regardless of IVs, and then use them as temporary attackers. You're going to get better stuff in the future, so you don't really want to spend too many resources on actually powering up a Honchkrow. Following that, we have Shuppet, which evolves into Bayonet, which has access to a Mega Evolution. If you guys don't actually have Mega Gengar, this would be the next best Ghost-type Mega to have in-game. We also have Drifloon, which evolves into Drifblim, which has relevance in the Open Great League and Ultra League right now. It is currently ranked number 27 in the Open Ultra League right now, which is super good, so very much of a high priority to get a good IV spread for the Ultra League Drifblim. We also have Frillish, which evolves into Jellicent. This Pokemon has relevance in the Open Great League and Ultra League metas. We have Zorua, which is going to be shiny boosted during this event. Now for those of you unfamiliar with how Zorua actually works, it's going to be disguised as your buddy Pokemon. So if you have a Galarian bird as your buddy Pokemon, be warned, like, the Pokemon that you encountered in the wild is not going to be a Galarian bird, it could be a Zorua. So anyways, just make sure to be aware because I don't want you guys wasting your Master Ball on a freaking Zorua. Now following that, in terms of the rare encounters, we're going to have access to Sableye, which I did mention earlier is going to be relevant in the Open Great League, but not as a regular Sableye. It's only going to be relevant as a Purified or Shadow variant. So if you don't have one of those versions, then don't focus on powering this Pokemon up, but keep in mind, it is going to give you 750 Stardust per catch, which means you should always be catching these Pokemon if you see them in the wild. Now finally, the last rare spawn available is going to be Absol, which does actually have a Mega Evolution and was recently featured in Mega Raids not that long ago. And for those of you guys who actually missed a rotation for Mega Absol, we do actually have the Mega Energy tasks available during this event, so don't forget about those if you actually want to get this. We definitely spent some time going over Morpeko earlier in this video as well, but I'll quickly go over it again. So basically Morpeko is going to be really good for PvP. Like, without even seeing the rankings right now in PvPoke, I know for a fact, just given the bonus that it has on Aura Wheel, that is going to be broken. So in order to actually get a good IV spread, you have to trade this Pokemon with somebody else and hope to reroll better IVs. Giratina Origin Form is going to be the available Pokemon in Legendary Raids. This Pokemon has relevance in the Open Great League, Ultra League, Master League, and the Raid/Gym meta as one of the best Ghost-type attackers in the game under Duskmane Necrozma. So in my opinion, with the 2x catch candy bonus, or potentially even the 3x catch candy bonus, you should be going hard for this Pokemon during this event. On top of that, we're also going to have Mega Sableye available, which I would recommend doing anywhere from like 2 to 3 raids minimum, so you have enough energy to actually run this during the entirety of the event, especially for newer and returning players. Like, this is a top priority, guys. Your candy gains are going to be even better having this Pokemon active during this event. With that being said, that pretty much covers every single Pokemon I think is going to be meta relevant during this event, so we do have a lot of Pokemon to focus on here. If you feel like I missed anything though, let me know in the comment section down below, and also to help out other players. Now for any of the Pokemon that I did mention that you're going to be interested in, I do want to remind you guys, we do currently have the seasonal bonus of guaranteed extra large candy from trading Pokemon right now if you are level 31 or higher. So make sure to take advantage of this bonus every single day if possible, because there are so many Pokemon worth hunting extra large candy during this this event. Now we do actually have one more seasonal bonus I want to go over right now, which is going to be the increased friendship experience of 1.5 times. This is by far the best way to get experience in game right now, and I've honestly been cashing in on this, guys. As a free-to-play player, I am almost at 300 million experience right now, which is insane. I'm so hyped about that. So basically, to put things into perspective here, normally when you hit best friends with somebody, you get 100,000 experience. This would be 200,000 with the Lucky Egg active, but right now you're gonna get 300,000 experience. I mean, that's insane, right? Imagine stacking like 2 best friends, that's 600,000 experience just like that. So basically, at minimum, I would recommend opening all of your gifts every single day to increase your friendship experience with various people, and send gifts as often as possible. Once you're actually out of gifts, your buddy Pokemon will bring you back 5 gifts, which happens about every 7 to 8 hours, which means you can get up to 15 gifts a day from just that feature. For those of you out there who can't really leave the house or you don't have that many Pokestops around you, this is honestly super helpful. And one more tip I want to recommend for opening gifts is to hit the X button really quickly to actually skip the animation. This saves so much time when you're going through your daily 30, guys. It is a game changer. Now following that, let's talk about the best Mega Evolution you guys want to have active during this event for candy bonuses. So when it comes down to this event, the main spawns are going to be Dark and Ghost type Pokemon, which basically makes Sableye one of your best choices as it covers both of these typings. And conveniently enough, for newer players, it's going to be the current Mega Pokemon available right now. For veteran players, hopefully you guys do actually have your Mega Sableye at Mega Level 3 for increased candy and extra large candy bonuses. You are going to get so much candy during this event, especially if you get that timed research ticket for $5. Now for those of you guys out there who have other Mega options for Ghost types or Dark types, you can also go with Gengar, Houndoom, Bayonet, and Absol. Once again, we do actually have field research tasks, which is going to reward energy for all these Pokemon during this event, which is pretty big. But honestly, the main point I'm trying to make here is that if you have any of these Pokemon at Mega Level 3, and you don't actually have Sableye just there yet at Mega Level 3, or even Mega Level 2 I should say, if you're just catching it for the first time during this event, then these Pokemon might be a better consideration for you because you're going to get more candy, depending on what you want to actually focus on. Now one of the bonuses during this event is going to be increased candy for actually getting nice, great, or excellent throws. So let's go over some catching tricks to end off this video. So first of all, let's go over the Circle Lock method for consistent, great, and excellent throws. You basically just want to hold down the Pokeball to set the circle, and then wait for the attack animation to start. And then you pretty much want to time your throw so that it lands right as that attack animation finishes. This avoids the Pokemon attacking you again, and it also keeps the circle in the exact same spot, which is really good for efficiency. Now for those of you guys who don't actually want to use the Circle Lock method, I would also recommend freehanding your throws and using Nana Berries instead to make the Pokemon stop attacking you. For me personally, as a more experienced player, I do actually like this method a little bit better than the Circle Lock method, but for Pokemon that I catch from raid battles, Circle Lock is honestly a lot better. So for Giratina Origin Form especially, I think the Circle Lock method is going to be really important for a lot of you. Anyways, with that being said, that's basically everything I have for you guys in this video. If you do want to check out some more content, I'm going to recommend these 2 videos right here. But before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.